Guys, what is up? Well, there's no avoiding the subject because the name is in the title. A couple of months ago, I made the difficult decision to sell my Jaguar F-Type. But don't worry, I did buy something new to replace it, and I'm gonna tell you about that today too. So first, it was a very difficult, tough decision to sell the F-Type, but there's a lot of reasons why it just made sense to do it. So basically, if you haven't seen my F-Type review, I will leave the link down in the description for you to check it out. I had the baby, the P300 model. That model is now discontinued. It's been replaced by the bigger P340. That is now the base entry model. So the car I had was a little bit hard to get, and it was actually quite sought after. So that helped me when it came time to sell it back to the dealer. It went back to the place I got it from originally because they were desperate for cars. And it was actually lucky that I was able to kind of just give it back to them and not have to deal with private sale. But why did I sell it? That's really going to be everybody's question. Well, first, the car was over a year old and it only had 14,000 some odd kilometers on it. And the reason for that is I live in Canada. The weather here is not exactly conducive to a sports car. The F-Type is an amazing car. I had such a good time driving it. It had its quirks, but the biggest thing was that I could only drive it so many months a year. And of course, I'm still working Monday through Friday. I'm not really taking it anywhere. So it was really just a weekend roadster. And I come from a big family. I've got in my immediate family 7 people that at any moment might need to be hauled around. That's where my SUV comes in. I don't actually know if I've addressed the SUV that I own on the channel before, but I have currently a 2018 Volkswagen Tiguan, top trim, can't remember, I think it's called the Highline. This car, or that car I should say, has been absolutely bulletproof. Zero complaints about the Tiguan whatsoever. It's been an amazing vehicle, and that guy's got well over 100 odd thousand kilometers on it, and I'm still dailing it. Of course, now it's my only vehicle that I have at the moment. We'll get into that in a second. So weather, road conditions, the timing, the amount I was able to drive the car, it just long-term didn't make any sense to have it sitting in the garage or being stored. I had an offsite storage. Anytime I was getting together with my family on a Sunday for dinner, couldn't take the F-Type. More often than not, it was like a once a week driver. And I did take advantage of those days where I got to drive it, but it wasn't enough to justify the rather high price tag of that vehicle. So once I got my head around and had found that the dealer was gonna take it back, and the Jag was going away. The Tiguan, as I mentioned, is getting up there in mileage. So I figured, well, this is probably a good time to just replace both vehicles and get it all done and get one new vehicle that sort of ticks all the boxes for me. And I mean, the ideal car for me is something that is not only sporty and fun to drive, obviously, that's why I got the F-Type, but also has a really nice interior. It's very luxurious and smooth, calm to drive when you want it to be for like long hauls, which the Tiguan was great for. So I test drove a crap load, and I really do mean a crap load of sports SUVs or high-end luxury SUVs before I made my purchase decision. I tested the Macan, Porsche Macan. I tested the Volvo XC60, XC90. I tested the X3, X5 from BMW, the Mercedes GLC. Lots and lots of test driving was done. But ultimately, the car that I decided to purchase is probably not the first one you'd think of. It's the Genesis GV70. I ended up getting the 2.5T Sport Prestige, decked out with all the options. The only thing it doesn't have is the 3D gauge cluster and the instrument panel, but it has just about everything else you could ever imagine. I know people are probably thinking, it's a high-end Hyundai, but if you have not looked into this car in detail, do not knock it. It is a super capable car, and it will really amaze and impress you if you've not seen one of these before. For any of you who don't know, Genesis is the high-end arm, essentially, of Hyundai. This car is coming out of the gate swinging. It's offering a ton of features and a ton of capability at what I would argue is a pretty reasonable price tag for a very well-equipped, very capable vehicle under the $70,000 price tag, which for most cars is pretty cost-effective these days. Even a fully loaded Volkswagen Tiguan right now at 2022 is going to run you almost 60 grand if you go with the same trim that I currently have. The cost of cars has exploded, and Genesis is coming out with what I would consider a very competitive and attractive offering. I went with the blue exterior, which is a different color for me. Usually I'm white or black on my cars. So blue exterior, and also a blue with red accent interior, which is kind of new. Haven't really seen this done before, but it looks really sharp in this car. The Genesis line is extremely popular. So I'm on a massive wait list. And so I don't quite know when I'm going to be trading in the Tiguan and actually getting the keys to this new car. I'm about 3 months into the wait now. I did the pre-order back in the summertime. At this point, it's looking like sometime between February of 2023 and May of 2023. That's sort of my window. I'm very excited. This car, again, if you have not seen or test drove or even heard of this car before, you absolutely must check it out. Of course, a full review will be coming. This car is a perfect blend. It's got a 300 horsepower engine in it, just like the Jaguar, and it has a little bit of a bigger engine. It's a 2.5, in the Jag that I had, it was a 2. So this is gonna give me the same, or slightly better perhaps, performance, but with far more modern functionality, far more tech, absolutely everything you can imagine. And I mean, knock it all you want, Hyundai powertrains are bulletproof. So this car is gonna run just hopefully like my Tiguan has without any issues. And if I do have any issues, Genesis has this relatively new thing called concierge. They'll come and pick the car up at your house, take it off for service, and drop you off a loaner in the meantime, which is pretty amazing. Not having to go to the dealership to drop off the car, sit around for hours while it gets worked on, or take an Uber or rent a car. It's an absolute inconvenience and it completely screws up any day, regardless of when you're going, what you're getting done. I think this concierge option is pretty cool. I don't think there's many companies, if any other companies, that are currently doing this. So yeah, that's the big update, guys. The F-Type was an amazing car to own. And if you're in a position where it makes sense to you to have one, you're gonna love it. I absolutely have no regrets. It was a really, really fun drive. On to the next, out with the old, in with the new, as they say. I'm super excited to get my hands on the GV70. What are your thoughts on the GV70? What are your thoughts on the F-Type? Let's have a conversation, guys. As always, down in the comments, let me know your thoughts. And we'll be back again soon in the next one.